Deep in the rainforest of Borneo, a geologist crouches over a tray of crushed rock. No one is watching. From a small bag, he tips a fine glitter of gold dust into the sample, stirs it in, and seals the bag. That single gesture, repeated over and over across 4 years, will summon billions of dollars out of the air and pull 40,000 people into one of the strangest disasters in the history of money. Somewhere over that same jungle, 2 years later, a helicopter door will open in mid-flight. A man will be gone before it lands, and the gold he swore he had found will never be found at all. This is the story of Bre-X and of the rock that was never as rich as the men who believed in it. The site was called Busang, a remote patch of jungle in the Indonesian half of the island of Borneo. Steaming, roadless, swallowed by green. The kind of place where the outside world arrives by river or by air, or not at all. Bre-X Minerals was a small, almost unknown Canadian exploration company run out of Calgary by a former stockbroker named David Walsh. For years it had drifted near bankruptcy, drilling in places that came to nothing. Walsh had staked much of what he had left on a tip about Busang. He sent in a field team and waited for the rock to speak. The man who read that rock was a Filipino geologist named Michael de Guzman. Charismatic, brilliant, persuasive, a jungle veteran who knew the geology of Southeast Asia as well as anyone alive. And the rock, according to de Guzman, was extraordinary. The first assays came back carrying gold, then more gold, then numbers that made the geologists read them twice. Busang, the sample said, was not just a deposit, it was a monster. As the drilling pushed deeper, the estimates climbed. First a few million ounces, then tens of millions. Then a figure so large it stopped sounding like geology and started sounding like a fairy tale, as much as 200 million ounces of gold. If true, it would have been the richest gold strike of the 20th century, a deposit worth tens of billions of dollars hidden under the trees found by a company most of the world had never heard of. The word reached the stock exchanges and the exchanges caught fire. Bre-X shares had once traded for pennies. Now they began to climb, and they did not stop. The stock split and split again, and still it rose, multiplying nearly 300 times over. A company that had been worth almost nothing became worth roughly $6 billion. On paper, ordinary people who had bought in early were suddenly dizzyingly rich. Pension funds bought in. Mutual funds bought in. Television analysts who had never seen Borneo recited the numbers from Busang like a prayer. 40,000 investors, by some counts, were carried along on the same current. Reporters flew out to the jungle to see it for themselves. They were shown the camp, the core sheds, the long racks of drill samples, physical proof, it seemed, pulled from the earth. And the proof was everything, because no one outside the company had actually held the gold. They had held the story, and the story was backed by the rock. As long as the rock was real, the dream was real. But the rock was a lie, and it had been a lie almost from the beginning. To understand a mining fraud, you have to understand a single fragile point in the process. The moment the rock comes up out of the ground and becomes a number. A drill bores deep into the earth and pulls up a long cylinder of stone called a core. That core is split, crushed, bagged and sent away to a laboratory where it is dissolved and measured for gold. The laboratory does not see the jungle. It sees only the bag it is handed. And that is the gap. Between the moment the rock leaves the ground and the moment it reaches the lab, the sample passes through human hands. Whoever controls those hands controls the truth. At Busang, those hands controlled it completely. According to the investigation that followed, the samples were being salted, seeded with gold that had never come from the deposit at all. The added gold, investigators later concluded, was not even the right kind. Much of it appeared to be alluvial gold. Rounded, river-worn flakes panned from local streams, not the sharp, raw gold a real hard rock deposit would yield. To a chemist who knew what to look for, it was a fingerprint of fraud. The method was patient and almost invisible. A little gold added here, a little there, sample after sample, so that every test came back rich and every result confirmed the last. For nearly 4 years, not one assay broke the spell. There is a story, repeated often, impossible to fully verify, that in the early days when money was tight, de Guzman shaved gold from his own wedding ring to seed the first samples. Whether literally true or not, it captures the intimacy of the deception. This was not a machine. It was a man, by hand, building a mountain out of dust. And the genius of it was the same as the cruelty of it. The richer the fake numbers grew, the more money poured in. The more money poured in, the more the world needed the numbers to be true. The lie protected itself. But every salted deposit has the same fatal flaw. The gold that was sprinkled in by hand cannot survive an honest, independent drill, a hole sunk by someone with no reason to lie. That hole was coming. By late 1996, Busang had grown too big to keep to itself. The Indonesian government, partners, and powerful outside players all wanted a share of the richest gold mine on Earth. A deal took shape that brought in an American mining giant, Freeport-McMoran, as a partner to help develop the site. And Freeport did what serious miners do before they stake their name on a number. They sent in their own drill rigs to confirm the deposit, their own holes, their own samples, their own labs. In early 1997, Freeport's drills went into the ground at Busang, in some places reportedly barely a stride away from the holes Bre-X had drilled, the holes that had returned all that miraculous gold. They pulled up the core, they crushed it, they tested it, and there was nothing. Not a poor result, not a disappointing one. Essentially nothing. Insignificant, uneconomic traces in rock that Bre-X's own samples had sworn was drenched in gold. Two holes, a meter apart, one impossibly rich, one empty. Both could not be telling the truth, and only one of them had passed through Bre-X's hands. The news did not break all at once. First came rumors, then a quiet panic among the people who understood what the discrepancy meant. An independent review of the project was ordered. The questions sharpened, and in the middle of those questions stood Michael de Guzman, the man who had read the rock, signed off on the numbers, and built the legend of Busang. He was summoned to fly back to the site, reportedly to face the people who now wanted answers. On the 19th of March, 1997, de Guzman boarded a helicopter for that flight over the Borneo jungle. He never reached the ground alive. According to the official account, sometime during the flight, the helicopter door opened, and de Guzman fell down into the dense green canopy below, miles from any road, swallowed by the same jungle that had hidden his secret. A search began. Days later, a body was recovered from the rainforest, badly decomposed in the heat. It was identified as de Guzman, and according to reports, cremated soon after, before any independent examination could resolve the questions that surrounded it. The timing was almost unbearable. The man at the center of the largest gold fraud in history had died at the precise moment the fraud was about to be exposed, taking with him whatever he knew and whatever he might have said about who else knew it. The official ruling was suicide. A note was reportedly found. He was said to be ill, despairing, cornered by the collapse he could see coming. But almost no one who studied the case has ever been fully satisfied with that ending. There were the practicalities, the decomposed, swiftly cremated body, identified under difficult conditions, the convenient silence of the one man who could have named the others. For a deception of this scale and skill, was it really the work of a single geologist acting alone, or was de Guzman the one hand that history could see, and the easiest one to lose? Some have argued over the years that he was murdered to keep him quiet. Others have whispered that he never died at all, that the body in the jungle was not his, and that de Guzman walked away into a new life, leaving someone else's bones to be identified. Nothing has ever been proven. The death remains, to this day, a genuinely open question. What is not in question is what was left behind once Freeport's empty drill cores were confirmed. The story unraveled with brutal speed. Bre-X shares, worth billions one week, were worth essentially nothing the next. The $6 billion mountain of value evaporated into the same air it had been conjured from. The 40,000 investors, the pension savers, the day traders, the ordinary people who had been told they were rich, were left holding paper. Savings vanished. Retirements vanished. A few are said to have taken their own ruin very hard. And then came the strangest verdict of all. After years of lawsuits and investigations, no one was ever criminally convicted for the Bre-X fraud. David Walsh, the company's founder, died of a brain aneurysm not long after the collapse, maintaining he had been deceived, along with everyone else. The one man who could most clearly have explained Busang was ash in the jungle, a fortune that never existed, a deposit drilled into the richest in the world and found to be empty, 40,000 believers, billions gone, and not a single person held to account. The whole vast edifice rested on a few flecks of river gold, dropped by hand into a bag, by a man who is no longer here to say why. So the question that hangs over Busan has never really closed. Was the gold the only thing that was faked in that jungle, or was the fall from the helicopter the last lie of all?